Red Bull will be running experiments on its car to understand what's going on. Sergio Perez claims his seat is intact after summer break talks, and Max Verstappen does not intend on staying in F1 for too much longer. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. The summer break is over, and Formula One is roaring back to life with a thrilling second half of the season. The journey begins at Zandvoort, the iconic Dutch circuit that's not only the home track of the reigning champion, but also one of the most technically challenging courses on the calendar. Zandvoort's unique twists and turns will push the limits of both drivers and machines, making it the perfect stage to reignite the Constructors' Championship fight. Let's take a look at the challenges Zandvoort presents, which teams will benefit from this configuration, and what we can expect this weekend. Zandvoort has a long history in Formula One, earning its reputation as a true old-school track. The current circuit is a blend of the original track with new sections added over time. Perhaps the most notable feature is the banking in the third and final corners, angled at 19 degrees, allowing drivers to take these turns at much higher speeds. At just 459 km in length, Zandvoort is one of the shortest tracks, right after Monaco and the Hungarian. This means we'll see 72 laps during Sunday's race, and very close qualifying times on Saturday, adding to the excitement for the viewers. This track demands high levels of downforce due to its numerous fast corners, where stability is crucial. Engineers will likely sacrifice drag and top speed, which won't be a major issue on a track with only one long straight. Tire stress and lateral forces on the car will be at their peak here, especially on the front left tire. That's why Pirelli has chosen the hardest tire compounds, C1, C2, and C3. Teams are expected to adopt diverse strategies, with some opting for one or two pit stops, adding to the drama on Sunday. Additionally, the potential for rain could further complicate things. Zandvoort has two DRS zones, with the main overtaking opportunity at the end of the start-finish straight, leading into the first corner. This corner is known for its width, allowing drivers to take different racing lines and increasing the chances of overtaking. However, overtaking on other parts of the track is much more challenging. Another key feature of this track is the high level of track evolution. This means that the track will get faster as more cars run on it, making the timing of a fast lap in qualifying crucial to the final result. Due to Zandvoort's fast corners, high downforce is needed to ensure car stability, which is evident in the aerodynamic packages teams have brought to the track. There are very small differences in aerodynamic approaches among the top teams, with Mercedes and Red Bull slightly standing out. Their more aggressive setups suit them well as they'll look to exploit their advantages in the corners, particularly the faster ones. On the other hand, Ferrari and McLaren feature a rear-wing design with less curvature in the lower element. This should give them a greater advantage in the DRS zones, though the differences may not be drastic. Zandvoort's characteristics are most similar to those of the Hungarian, so we can assume that teams that performed well there will also do well here. The main difference is that Zandvoort has more fast corners, as well as some with banking, which significantly alters the technical preparation of the car. When it comes to medium-high downforce tracks, McLaren is a top contender. Their car performs exceptionally well on these circuits, as we saw at the Hungarian when they secured the top two podium positions. Technically, we expect them to extract maximum performance, but their main challenge remains race strategy and overall race management on Sunday. Despite having one of the fastest cars this season, McLaren has only won 2 races, far below their potential. Unlike last year when Max arrived at Zandvoort with his longest winning streak, he now comes with his longest stretch without a win since 2020. Red Bull faces a tough challenge adjusting to this short, bumpy track, which doesn't suit them well. Additionally, the high curbs will affect their soft suspension setup, potentially reducing driver aggression through the corners. Overall, this track is not ideal for Red Bull. However, the team currently in the best form, as of the end of the first half of the season, is Mercedes. Despite a disastrous start to the season, they managed to secure 3 wins in the last 4 races, showing their championship spirit once again. In the last race in Belgium, they prepared exceptionally well for a track that wasn't supposed to suit them and managed to secure the top 2 positions, despite Russell's disqualification. Mercedes has proven they can be competitive on all types of tracks, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be aiming for victory this weekend. One thing is certain. We're in for a thrilling weekend with plenty of excitement. There are many unknown factors that could impact the outcome, and the top 3 teams are closer than ever to each other. Red Bull is set to experiment with its Formula One car specification at the Dutch Grand Prix in pursuit of the problems that have left Max Verstappen unhappy and contributed to Sergio Perez's extensive struggles. After a dominant start to 2024, Red Bull and Verstappen are on their longest winless run, 4 races since 2020, as McLaren and Mercedes have emerged as consistent threats. Verstappen has raised concerns about Red Bull's development, as this streak persisted despite a major aerodynamic upgrade at the Hungarian Grand Prix, which theoretically should be on both cars at Zandvoort this weekend, after it was fast-tracked and only on Verstappen's at the Hungaroring, given it is a special high downforce package. While this bodywork should be on at least one RB20 on Friday, practice is set to be spent trialing different setup items and car parts. World champion Verstappen did not comment on this specifically on Thursday at his home race, but spoke of a need to understand the car a bit more, after an effort to analyze a lot over the break and try to do things maybe a bit different or better. The situation that we have been in the last few races, we want to come out of that and learn maybe a bit more from the car and be more competitive, he said. Teammate Perez was more explicit. He admitted that there's been an upgrade or two that probably took us in the wrong path, and strongly hinted that different parts would be on the car on Friday, either for him versus Verstappen or for both cars compared to the pre-summer spec. Even if Perez uses some of the high downforce bodywork that made its debut on Verstappen's car in Hungary, there is expected to be some mixing and matching of parts around that. The floor is likely to be a new version that is a hybrid of previous designs. It's clear now where we are with the car. It's something I want to keep within the team, the level of detail, Perez said. You will see what we're going to be doing with the cars. It's something that will stay with the team, but we've taken somewhere a turn that isn't right. It could be that Red Bull only tests some items back-to-back in Friday practice, then converges on the same spec for both cars for the rest of the weekend, with a mix of Hungary and pre-Hungary components across the bodywork and floor. Whatever the outcome will only be a short-term measure to mitigate against the weaknesses that have been discovered, with upgrades to hopefully fix the problem not due for a few more races. And it is possible that Perez runs a different spec to Verstappen, given he has had his own issues over the past 3 months. Asked specifically about going back to an old spec, Perez replied, "We'll see. We'll definitely try a lot of different things. It's something we've certainly taken a wrong direction with, but obviously it's not so easy to fix, and not so quick. With the lack of practice we might face and different types of circuits coming up, it's not so straightforward." Thursday at Zandvoort marked the first time Perez spoke to the media since Red Bull opted to keep him in the car for the rest of the season. A prospect he continues to insist was purely speculation. The meeting had nothing to do with the drivers, it was all about performance, Perez claimed. But it was key to preserving his seat, for now. Where Perez is right is that performance also matters, and there are some firm changes being made to try to unlock it. In addition to car experiments, Perez has a rejigged engineering team here, as regular race engineer Hugh Bird prepares to go on paternity leave. That impending absence has created a timely opportunity to give Perez a new voice in his ear, something the race believes could be a permanent move. Perez says that's not the plan at the moment, but obviously we'll see how everything goes. "It's becoming a lot clearer for all of us where we are, where we have to work on," said Perez, said of his engineering team, which Bird is still supporting before his leave begins. "It's been very positive, I would say." Lewis Hamilton has spoken about the pending split between himself and Pete Bonington after almost 12 years of working together. With Hamilton moving to Ferrari, the confirmation from Mercedes of his longtime race engineer Pete Bonington securing a promotion at Brackley means the most successful driver-dart race engineer partnership in F1 history will end after this season. While a move to Ferrari wasn't a hugely likely one for Bonington, speculation had kept the possibility alive as the identity of Hamilton's future race engineer at Ferrari isn't yet known. The most likely candidate is Carlos Sainz's incumbent race engineer Riccardo Adami, with Italian media having reported Hamilton has been in contact with Sebastian Vettel, who also raced with Adami during his own Ferrari tenure, to get his impression on the Italian. Mercedes' confirmation of a promotion for Pete "Bono" Bonington, as first reported earlier this week by PlanetF1.com, brings to an end any possibility of a team switch, with Bonington stepping up to become the team's head of race engineering, alongside a race engineer role for a team driver next season. Bonington will continue to work with Hamilton until the end of this year, before the pair part ways. It concludes 12 years of history between Hamilton and Bonington, whose long and successful partnership has become symbiotic through 6 Drivers' Championship victories. "Was I hoping?" Hamilton replied as he spoke to media, including PlanetF1.com, at Zandvoort about his hopes Bonington might make the switch to Ferrari with him. "I would have loved to have continued with Bono, of course. We have a great relationship. You saw that at Silverstone, he's like a brother, but I'm really happy for him. For me, I think it's just about people doing what's best, to do whatever's best for you." A switch for Bonington was always going to be complicated, given the existence of an anti-poaching clause in Hamilton's contract, which prevented him from having any direct involvement in a team switch for Mercedes employees he currently works with. But the 7-time F1 world champion said moving to Italy would have been a big change in demand on Bonington's personal life. "Packing up and leaving, I can only imagine it's not. Him and his partner, it affects and impacts both of them," Hamilton said. "So they had to do whatever was right for him. I knew it would be an unlikely scenario that he would go with me, because it's such a drastic change in his, but I'm really happy for us as a team. The team has acknowledged and made changes so he can grow more. I think he'll now be able to show us even more of the great things he's been doing. But either way, we're going to be family forever." With Hamilton about to embark on a new chapter in his career with a new race engineer, he spoke about how crucial it is that the driver gets along with the engineer, even if a duo are thrust together without any input from either side. "The team often does it for you," he said. "I've only worked with 2 engineering teams like number 1s in my career. No, it's not true, actually. I had Phil Prue, I had Andy Latham, and when I joined this team, I just came in and Bono was the current head engineer at the time. I mean, it's got to be someone you get on with. It's got to be someone that you are able to find it easy to ultimately build a relationship with and trust. So the next one, that's going to be a discovery process. I'll know early on whether or not it's going to work or not, and I think it's just about communicating." Predicting a very heavy-loaded start to next season as he moves into a new office, Hamilton was asked whether he is expecting any other Mercedes personnel to come across to Ferrari when he makes the move. "Not that I know of," he said. "There's a few people there, like Loic Serra, that I've worked with. There's someone there that left me a long time ago. He was my number 2, Jock. So I know him. He's the one I know mostly there, apart from Fred, and then I don't know anybody else." Sergio Perez has denied senior Red Bull figures met in the summer break to discuss his future despite reports to the contrary. With the Mexican driver under intense pressure, Red Bull higher-ups Christian Horner and Helmut Marko were reported to have met to discuss the driver's future, but Perez now says that was to focus on car performances issues. Red Bull confirmed Perez would be staying for the foreseeable future during the summer break following the meeting between Horner and Marko on the Monday after Spa. But Perez now claims his own future was never part of the discussions. "It was mainly pure speculation," Perez told reporters, including PlanetF1.com at Zandvoort. "I think the meeting had nothing to do with the drivers. It was all about the performance. I think I already said everything I had to regarding speculation. I'm fully committed to the team. I've got a contract for the next 2 years, and I'm fully committed to Red Bull, to turn things around, and I've said everything I had to." Red Bull's show of faith comes after Perez has failed to finish higher than 7th in the last 8 races, throwing Red Bull's hopes of retaining the constructor's crown into doubt. Perez, though, suggested that the summer break had been pivotal for the team and that they now had a better understanding of their car for the final 10 races of the F1 2024 season. "It was a very positive break for Red Bull. We were able to find a lot of stuff that I think at least we know where we are with the car right now," the 34-year-old said. "There's been an upgrade or two that probably took us in the wrong path, and I think just looking back at it right now, we know exactly how the car is working, which is a very good thing. Because I think it was not so clear in the last few races and whether we can fix it and get back to the level we had earlier. That's another question." Without going into detail, Perez suggested his own struggles had come as a result of Red Bull's issues with the car. "I think especially with the issues we've had, I've been struggling in that direction," Perez said. "I cannot go too much in detail, but a lot of my struggles have been in that direction. It's hard to explain in the amount of detail, but it's not like in the beginning of the year. Certainly there have been some things that didn't go my way that were hurting me more, and we were probably not extracting the maximum out of the car in that regard." Max Verstappen, on the eve of his 200th Grand Prix, says he won't be in F1 for a further 200 races as he's now into the second half of his career. Despite still only being in his mid-20s, Verstappen is now one of the most experienced drivers on the grid as he made his debut at the age of 17 in 2015. Almost a decade later, the Dutch driver is a multiple world champion and says he's nearer the end than the start of his F1 career. Verstappen has a long-term contract with Red Bull, the team with whom he won his first race at the first time of asking when he was promoted up from Toro Rosso in the middle of 2016. Having climbed up into F1 with Red Bull's backing, his entire career in F1 has been with the company through its two teams, and his long-term contract has him in a seat with Red Bull until the end of 2028. With 61 Grand Prix wins and 3 World Championships, which could be a fourth by the end of 2024, Verstappen has entered the echelons of the sport's all-time greats during his career, but, recently, there have been more questions about his future than perhaps might be the norm for one so young. The Dutch driver has been speculated to have been eyeing up a switch to Mercedes, with team boss Toto Wolff making his interest very obvious as he seeks a replacement for the departing Lewis Hamilton. While Verstappen initially didn't look to quell this speculation, he has been more committal towards his Red Bull contract in recent weeks, and following the summer break, it's been reported that Mercedes has accepted that its attempts to woo Verstappen haven't worked for now. But, while Verstappen's position at Red Bull may be solidifying again, the 3-time F1 world champion has explained that he is closer to the end of his career than the start. Heading to Zandvoort for his 200th Grand Prix weekend, Verstappen was asked whether he has another 200 in him. "No," was his blunt answer as he addressed media, including PlanetF1.com ahead of the weekend. "Nice and easy, yeah? We've passed halfway for sure. But it's been already, of course, an incredible ride. 200, it doesn't feel like 200, but of course we're doing a lot of races now in a year, so you add them quite quickly." Pressed for detail on his answer, and whether he'll look for a new contract for after his 2028 deal, or what he might need to convince him to stay on, Verstappen said he isn't giving his future any thought at this point. "I mean, of course 2028 is still very far away," he said. "But in my mind at the moment, I'm not thinking about a new contract, I just want to see how it goes." Verstappen has long made his wariness over the upcoming technical rules being brought in 2026 known, and the Dutch driver said how he feels behind the wheel of an F1 car in 26 and 27 will play a big role in deciding his future. "Also see the new regulations first, if it's fun or not," he said. "Then even in 2026 or 27, there's a lot of time to decide what happens, so I just keep everything open. But yeah, I'm quite easygoing about it." With 200 races behind him, there have been many high points as he's established himself as a multiple world champion, and he explained which of these moments have been the big standouts. "Honestly, I think winning your very first race, that is always very emotional," he said. "Because you dream of that when you're a little kid. To be on the podium in F1 and then being on the top step, I think, is always very special. Winning your first championship, these kind of things, there will always be something incredible that I will look back at after my career. 2 highlights. But with Red Bull no longer dominating F1 in the fashion it has over recent years, Verstappen faces a very tough challenge to keep up his winning streak at Zandvoort this weekend. Verstappen is undefeated since the circuit returned to the calendar in 2021, but with McLaren, Mercedes, and sometimes Ferrari proving capable of beating Red Bull this year, the home hero says he's just hopeful of a stronger weekend as he aims to end his winless streak. Looking at how the season is at the moment, for sure, it looks like also many more teams involved that can actually win a race, he said. So, for sure, I'm not coming into this weekend saying that, yeah, we're going to win the race. I just want to have a clean weekend, understand the car a bit more, and learn from it. Of course, we analyzed a lot over the break, and we'll try to do things maybe different or better. We'll find out, of course, over the weekend how that will go. That's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one.